She asked us to tape the Q&A. Thank you, Dee. I just remembered. Okay, back on track. So your character in this film is an immortal daughter of Lilith.
Yes.
And so were you given any backstory on the character, or did you come up with any yourself?
I was not given a lot of backstory at all.
Okay.
It was kind of chaotic in the best way.
Okay.
I never acted before. That's not true. I did like a high school theater play, but nothing for like when it comes to being filmed. And during the audition, I just acted really bitchy for fun. She loved it. In fact, I feel like I should have been more like that for the movie. For the audition, I was being ridiculous.
More so? Because your
yeah.
character is a very like 80s movie bitch.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. Yes,
That was
like,
something that
ew,
was
who are you? Like that's
She did give me the backstory. You know, there was a lot of lore about Lilith, and that this was like all about like being in a modern day cult with a ton of women that are PMSing. And I was sold immediately.
You're like, great, I get this.
Yeah.
And another thing that I am interested in with this film is a lot of it was composited, a lot of it was green screen. And so like when you were actually on the set, what kind of sets were you looking at? Like for example, when you were filming the bar scene or the ceremony scenes, like what was actually physically in the room when you were shooting those scenes?
Yeah, most of the movie was shot in green screen, and Lindsay had not worked with green screen that much. This was a ton of green screen, and it was really difficult because the entire film department had to share this room, and it was a lot of trying to work around everybody's schedule.
Film department at the Art Institute?
Yeah. And it was kind of chaotic because most of the movie is shot green screen.
Right.
There was only a few scenes that are shot, I think it was Lindsay's apartment at the time.
Yeah, with all the posters and
yes.
such. I assume that was already there.
Yeah, well, actually a lot of them were donated by Danny Gallegos, who actually just passed away this last year. And he was one of the art directors and assistant directors in this movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of the art direction was his vision as much as Lindsay's. They shared a lot of similar punk aesthetics. And those posters were a lot of his posters, and some were Lindsay's posters. It was just overall such a great time. It was really fun to see it and be super nostalgic about that time. I was 22 at the time.
I was wondering because I wondered when was the last time you saw this movie?
Probably in 2016 was the last time I saw it.
Oh wow.
And we were all so young back then.
How's it feel to see it again?
I miss making movies with Lindsay.
Yeah.
She's an amazing visionary, and she'll make magic out of nothing. Trash. Like, she can just take something that's just discarded as something that's like unusable, and it becomes this like magical item throughout the whole movie. And she'll also work with any type of person. That, she didn't really care if you had an art background or music background or acting background. She was just such a great people person and got everybody involved. It was just like a party being on her sets.
So did you know everybody before you did this film?
No.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know Lindsay that well. I just got really good vibes. A few years prior, when we used to play shows together in Florida, we were part of like a noise music punk community, and she would play the worst music I've ever heard.
That's kind of a compliment in the noise world, though.
Exactly, and it was so intriguing, and she made it work. Her energy and her weirdness were so intriguing. I was fascinated by her day one.
Yeah. And
immediately just like grew a deep attachment to her and her style of art making and filmmaking. And I, till this day, find her so inspiring.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss working with her a lot overall, is all I can say as I'm watching this movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything, you know, you were talking about making sets out of trash and things like that, and the sort of like DIY vibe of it all. Is there anything that you remember specifically that was like kind of like found and brought on the set? Or any, you know, any kind of pieces of art that you know, trash art that you remember being on the set when you were there?
Most of the stuff, yeah.
Okay.
She had all these like Barbie dolls that she would quickly convert into some prop.
Okay.
I think that's like those little alien, that like miniature
Oh.
set that you see throughout the like Lilith.
Yes,
Sacrifice
one of my favorite
scenes
things
and-
in the whole movie is the aliens with the blood
It's
on their
just-
legs.
yeah.
Yes, it's one of my favorite
She just
things
took
in the
these
whole
Barbie
movie.
dolls.
Those are Barbie dolls?
Yeah, that she just like
Seriously?
painted or like added weird stuff to it. So many things were so last minute, and were like, she would just very quickly overnight like create an entire set out of
Yeah.
like just like cardboard and pieces, like just paint and pieces of hair or whatever she can find, some
Mhm.
mask, and yeah, make a scene work so quickly.
I mean, knowing Lindsay, there's probably some real menstrual blood in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get.
It's
like-
very much her vibe, and I love it.
Yeah, what's real, what isn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know, speaking of that aspect of it, the DIY aspect of it, I was, you know, watching the credits again, and I noticed your name came up like 4 times. So I just want to ask you, so this very much seems like a set because of the, you know, the punk DIY vibe of it all. Was everybody wearing multiple hats and doing multiple things on the set?
Yeah, I think that's what made this movie so fun, and also made it so fun to make, is that everybody had contributed some kind of creative side that they had, including the music. A lot of the music was
Mhm.
made by a lot of the actors or assistant directors. There were people in the fashion department that were in the movie that helped make some of the clothing and like the hoods worn by the Lillans was made by Hope Esser. Everyone contributed more than one thing, I can
Mhm.
say.
What did you contribute? I saw your name under sound.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so were you like holding a boom?
I was holding a boom.
Okay.
I learned a lot on the spot. I like dabbled in the sound department. That was enough for Lindsay to think I can just handle some sound equipment for
Because, I
a few
mean,
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a musician, you know
Yeah.
about microphones and stuff.
Yeah. But I was handling like, you know, film equipment that was worth hundreds of dollars. And, yeah, to really pay attention. But she was such a positive force behind like every scene. It felt like anyone could do anything. I felt like I could contribute in any way or like do this for a living.
Mhm.
She just made everyone feel really special.
I love that.
Yeah.
Was there any, so you acted, you did sound, anything else? Any other departments you contributed to?
Yeah, I was helping paint things. I was helping gather props. I donated a lot of my own props.
Like what?
Some of the masks and
Cool.
weird monster hand stuff you see, fake body parts, other fashion stuff.
Mhm. I love you had fake body parts already around.
Yeah.
Maybe that was kismet that you were put on this project.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I got some fake hands at home, it's fine.
Yeah. So, me, Lindsay, and a group of other artists at the School of the Art Institute were called the Halloweens. It was our little nickname. Because
Oh, yeah?
we were very like spooky type artists, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah. Okay, cool.
So yeah, I did have a lot of these like weird props always laying around in my apartment and studio, and told Lindsay to have at it, like use whatever you need. And you know, I think we both saw so many similarities in how we approach art making, coming from like a very DIY like punk scene.
Mhm.
We both brought that into our own work, and with this movie, it inspired, you know, a great effort for like a team to come together to make Killer Makeover, which is
Yeah.
coming out very soon, and we worked really hard on that. I was the producer for that movie, and put in a ton of energy into that. Had a great time.
And that's been filming over several years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stay tuned for Killer Makeover.
Yeah, we saw the trailer before the movie.
Yeah.
Seems like it kind of takes place in the same world as Video Diary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same universe. It's very much Lindsay's style. If you enjoyed this movie, that movie will be even more absurdist. It'll also have the same influences, a lot of German expressionism and like surrealism and psychedelic kind of vintage imagery. Yeah, it was a real adventure to just do this movie, and it just led me to working with Lindsay for many more years after that.
Awesome. So tell me more about the Halloweens. I actually didn't know about this before.
So if you look up, and this is another plug for Lindsay, Pandora's Talkbox, which is her production company. She also made a series of shorts, and in one of them features a lot of the Halloween's artwork, including my own personal work.
Yeah.
So I, at SCSU, was doing performance art, and I guess it was seen as spooky. I used a lot of
It's funny how that works. Somebody was like, oh, you do a lot of spooky stuff, and you're like, oh, yeah. I guess I do.
Yeah, it's a lot of like horror, body horror, themes about the horror of gender identity and like self-discovery, and then getting lost in that discovery all over again. My work kind of like involved some kind of themes that were similar to Lindsay in the sense of abstracting in a romantic way how to just be yourself while also seeing yourself as monster. And I guess that's kind of why we were called the Halloweens. You know, we had this like affinity to
Did
see
you
ourselves.
Did you like it, or were you
I think we had so much. No, I liked it.
Okay.
I think we had a good time trying to figure out what that meant. You know,
yeah,
our
sure.
artwork. We were all very young. We were in our early 20s, and we're making these kind of like gory art pieces, performances, films, etc. And I think we all influenced each other to keep making work that was quite similar to one another. I think that's what I'm nostalgic for, is having that kind of community around. Yeah.
Are you still working with that kind of stuff in your work nowadays, like those themes?
I think somewhat, yeah. I definitely try to keep that type of aesthetic alive. The styles that we all kind of influence each other to create in our own work, I still try to continue implementing. I'm in a band called Fetishist, and sort of try to like keep that very similar theme going. Yeah, and I think you know, Lindsay and I are in the talks of what to do post Killer Makeover.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I like kind of hit the rewind button and revisit this work, and I have recently been having to like do that within my own work. It does remind me of how important, you know, to keep your community alive, and you know, your collaborators around, and keep the conversations going, because it's really hard to do this kind of work on your own.
Totally, yeah. I mean, you know, it sounds like there was a really kind of like special community around this film, and it really was like a communal effort with everybody pitching in and everybody having their aesthetic input. It sounds like it really was just a good group of people that came together to make this film.
Yeah, and it was like no budget.
Yeah.
It really was just like everybody.
Were you using like school facilities for the green screen scenes and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay went to SCIC knowing she wanted to make this movie, and that was the whole reason why she went there, so that she can use the facilities, use the equipment.
That's the best reason to go to film school.
Yeah, it's like a, yeah. So she had pre-written.
Like, y'all got equipment, right?
Yeah, right. Use what you can. But I think, you know, in the end, I you know, Lindsay didn't really like, you know, need it. Like, she had enough talent and energy, and she just knew how to like, again, find the right people, and just like gather friends to make it work. And she was just found ways to make it work and like be really positive. And I think that's really how this movie got made. The same with Killer Makeover. Also, I've got to give a big shout out to Chris.
Yeah. Chris is in LA now, I think.
Yeah. Was another just like big positive force throughout that whole process. And he did not go to SAIC, but he was just, you know, such a
Just
big
like
part of the
kindred
movie.
spirit, I guess,
Yeah, he's ridiculous and charming, and just like made sure everybody was okay, you know, doing a lot of these scenes and making everyone feel really comfortable despite not having experience.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't act in them, but there are a fair amount of like nude scenes and sex scenes and stuff like that in this movie, and you know, it sounds like you were kind of flying without a net, so it would have been important to have a supportive environment.
Yeah. Lindsay made sure everybody was really comfortable with those scenes and had an extra person there sort of guiding some of the actors that were nude, making sure they were very comfortable.
And she appears herself, Tabitha, I believe the niece who bleeds to death. That's Lindsay Denneberg.
Fun fact: she wasn't supposed to be in that scene.
Really?
It was a last minute dropout, and she was just like, "Whatever, I'll do it." Yeah, she's amazing. That's what I mean. Like, she'll make it work.
So can I ask you like a couple super specific questions about your character? I want to know about your wardrobe. I want to know about the pizza earrings, where those came from. Okay. Yeah, like were you bringing your own wardrobe and all that kind of stuff?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
We were all kind of sharing each other's wardrobe. We would all go thrifting and try to find something we would want for each scene. It's heavy duty jackets. Everyone was like, "You're gonna wear that jacket or that jacket." I got the jacket I wanted. I wish I still had that jacket. Such a good jacket.
What happened to the jacket? It's just
I don't remember. Who knows?
Somewhere?
Just like
you move a few times.
I'm sure it's in the hurricane right now in Florida, somewhere in a Tupperware bin. But yeah, I also really wish I got to hold the little puppy, the little dog.
That was my next question. Whose dog was that? Tell us about the dog.
I couldn't stop laughing. So that dog was like always on the verge of death, which like really added to the theme of the whole movie. So Monica, who plays Jane, she was dog sitting, and that dog was super attached to her, probably because it was very old.
She was dog sitting?
She was dog sitting that dog.
Oh,
I think it was
named
named Poochie. And Poochie was very needy and was very attached to Monica and could not calm down unless Monica was holding Poochie. So Monica had to hold Poochie throughout the whole movie, basically.
Oh, Poochie.
Yeah. It was cracking me up because the dog like always had the tongue out. I was always really concerned because we never knew when it was alive or dead. We could keep checking in.
You're like, if Poochie dies, this movie can't happen.
It would have been a bad omen.
Yeah, it would have.
If Poochie survived it, I don't think Poochie's alive anymore.
Yeah, poor R.I.P.
Yeah.
Poochie. This was about 10, 12 years ago, so yeah, Poochie.
Yeah.
Give it big up to Poochie. Bye, Poochie. Well, I don't want to end on that note. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the making of this film? Yeah, in the back there.
What's the writing process like? Was it like?
Yeah, were you involved in the writing process, or was the script done by the time you got to it?
The script was mostly done. I mean, Lindsay wrote it. Chris Shields also helped write it, and that was prior to her even filming, prior to her even going to the School of the Art Institute. But she did change it a little bit, and she did allow the actors to kind of improvise and develop their own characters a little bit throughout. So that was fun to witness, and I think it made it just really fun overall. Knowing that was her process with the script. I wish I knew more.
Well, when Killer Makeover's done, we'll have to
Yes.
screen, I think. Anybody else?
I'm just curious about the kind of production timeline. Was it pretty compact in terms of when you started filming versus when you ended, or was it kind of piecemeal when everyone and props were together?
She was in a very organized, tight schedule when it came to filming, and I think she did everything she could to get all the extras and those scenes done first, and did a lot of the like Pris and Chris scenes later, just in case things
sure,
split
it's
over.
less people to move right in.
Yeah, and it was over the course of 2 years, and then of course there was the miniatures that she was making throughout, that you see throughout the movie set as well. But she was able to do it all in 2 years total, especially because it did premiere in 2012, which is when we both finished with grad school. I wish I had more details about it, just only because it's, when I think about it, it is pretty impressive. She was able to do all of that in 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a follow-up. You know, like there's a lot of clips from different movies in this, and obviously in the video store setting, you see all the VHS boxes, and a lot of them kind of feed into the story. Did you have like cast and crew kind of screenings? Did you talk about movies or use them as references for?
Oh, I would say every time.
Every
I was on the
time.
set, we just talked about movies. Everybody was such a movie nerd. Yeah. I like didn't even get through half of the movies that was recommended by everybody. Everyone was such a film buff. And I learned how much I did not know about a lot of horror underground movies. And
Any 80s movies? Because we were saying your character has a little bit of like the 80s movie bitch in her.
Oh yeah. I'd say Heathers is a huge
Yeah.
influence in it, in this movie, as well as My Demon Lover.
Yeah.
Clueless. That's not so much 80s, but
It's a vibe, yeah.
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 My God, Dead Ringers was a major influence in the movie. It was talked around. Oh, Liquid Sky, which I did see prior to making this movie.
Yeah.
And thought like, all right, that's what we're doing. We're remaking Liquid Sky, like giving
In some
Lindsay's,
ways.
makeup influences. Yeah, that was definitely those were the references that was given prior to making the movie, and hopefully we captured that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like it was like a kind of a special process and kind of a special time
Yeah.
in everybody's life. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely taught me to just make it work.
Yeah.
You know, once you have the idea, just figure it out with some friends, and make something work.
So what are you doing now? You said Fetishists is your band?
Yeah, it's fetishist. I now build custom objects, sculptures, furniture,
Cool.
and like corporate event props. Sometimes some commercial props. Some things are used for movie sets.
Oh,
here and
that's
there.
cool.
Yeah.
So do you get to like keep them, or what happens to the objects afterwards?
Sometimes I just made a sculpture with my partner Melissa, who's here. We like
Yay.
hopefully we get to collaborate more on making some more art sculptures. I'm hoping something develops with my band Fetishist. We made some music videos and we recorded an album. Otherwise, solo stuff has been kind of hard. I think I much rather do collaborative work.
Yeah.
And once Killer Makeover comes out,
Yeah.
I'm hoping Lindsay has some more ideas. I know she talked about many years ago about focusing more on the Lilin. In fact, I think the script originally was written so much more focused on the Lilin. But she's such a hopeless romantic.
Yeah.
She started to focus more on Charlie towards the end as she was writing it.
You could build out a whole universe, like I said. You know, your character. How many centuries has she been alive? What's her like tragic, across the centuries?
Why the pizza earrings? There's
Why
a story
the
there.
pizza earrings?
There's an origin story with the pizza.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we all can take from this screening, this movie, this experience that, I don't know, how would you put it? I'd just say it rules to make stuff with your friends.
It does.
Yeah.
Keep talking to your friends. Keep making work.
Absolutely. Erica Gressman. Video Diary of the Lost Girl. Thank you so much for coming out to the inaugural Chicago Weird Wednesday, everybody.